Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Hari Om. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Ashtamodhyayah. Akshara Brahma Yogo Nama. Arjuna Uvacha. Kim tad Brahma kim adhyatmam. Kim karma purushottama. Adhibhutam cha kim proktam. Adhidaivam kim uchyate. Adhiyajna katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham gniyosi niyatatmabhihi. Shri Bhagavan uvacha aksharam brahma paramam svabhavodhyatmamuchyate bhuta bhavodbhavakaro visarga karma sangitah. Adhibhutam ksharo bhavah purushaschaधिदैवतम् adhiyajño ahamevatra dehe dehabhrutam vara
Jai
antakal.
Gurudev. Sorry, Bela, 1 minute. This shloka, no need to do that ahame vatra, adhidaivam. Otherwise, the stanza. Can you just chant that one more time? Let me just get my book.
Okay. Adhibhutam ksharo bhavah purushaschaधिदैवतम् adhiyajñohame vatra dehe dehabhrutam vara. Astu.
That's it. You just need to drag a little bit. That's it. No need to remove that thing. Yeah, that's perfect, Bela. Yeah, I've been wanting to say that time.
Yeah. Dhanyavada. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya सदा तद्भावभावितः। तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मरयुध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिर्मामे वैश्यस्य संशयम् अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन्। कविं पुराणमनुशासितारं मनोरणीयां समनुस्मरेत्यः सर्वस्य धातारमचिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमस परस्तात् प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम् यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यतयो वीतरागाः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोरधि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्न्याधायात्मनः प्राणमास्थितो योगधारणाम् ओमितेकाक्षरं ब्रह्म व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम् अनन्यचेता सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभ पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयमशाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः आब्रह्मभुवनालोकाः पुनरावर्तिनोऽर्जुन मामुपेत्य तु कौन्तेय पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते सहस्रयुगपर्यन्तं महर्यद्ब्रह्मणो विदुः रात्रिं युगसहस्रान्तां ते होरात्रविदो जनाः अव्यक्ताद्व्यक्तयः सर्वा प्रभवन्त्यहरागमे रात्र्यागमे प्रलीयन्ते तत्रैवाव्यक्तसंज्ञके भूतग्रामस एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे वश पार्थ प्रभवत्यहरागमे परस्तस्मात्तु भावोऽन्यो व्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यः स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति अव्यक्तोऽक्षर इत्युक्तः तमाहु परमां गतिम् यं प्राप्य न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम पुरुषः स परः पार्थ भक्त्या लभ्यस्त्वनन्यया यस्यान्तस्थानि भूतानि येन सर्वमिदं ततम् यत्र काले त्वनावृत्तिं चैव योगिनः प्रयाता यान्ति तं कालं वक्ष्यामि भरतर्षभ अग्निर्ज्योतिरः शुक्लः षण्मासा उत्तरायणम् तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्मविदो जनाः धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिर्योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गतीयेते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते नैते श्रुति पार्थ जानन्योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपःसु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम् ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे अक्षरब्रह्मयोगो नाम अष्टमोऽध्यायः ॐ तत्सत् अथ नवमोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात् So yesterday we seen the humongous time frame and I think Brahmaraji 18th verse was completed, right? I will just browse through the text.
You can actually you can actually go through that previous shloka one more time, Bela.
Yeah, the same one, the time frame one, no?
Not the Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. After that we did twice already.
Okay.
The shloka are following that.
Yeah, okay. First, what happens when the day breaks or the night for Brahmaji? Avyaktadvyaktaya sarva prabhavantyaharaagame ratriagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sanyake. Aharagame, at the beginning of the day of Brahmaji, avyaktat, from the unmanifest, sarvaha vyaktayah, all that is manifest. Prabhavanti, arise, ratri agame, at the beginning of the night of Brahmaji, avyakta sanyake, in that which is called unmanifest, tatra eva, in that alone, praliyante, they resolve. Aharagame avyaktat sarvaha vyaktayah prabhavanti ratri agame avyakta sanyake tatra eva praliyante. At the beginning of the day, all things that are manifest arise from the unmanifest. At the beginning of the night, they resolve in that which is called unmanifest. Avyaktat vyaktayah sarvah prabhavanti aharagame. From the unmanifest come all the manifest forms when the day of Brahmaji breaks. From the sleep of Brahmaji arise all the manifest individuals, sun, moon, stars, all mobile, immobile, inert and sentient entities and the places where they exist. Just as from our sleep, our day or dream manifests, similarly, from Brahmaji's sleep, the whole creation has come about. That Brahmaji is nothing but Parmeshwara. This takes it one step further. Everything is Parmeshwara and Brahmaji is not an entity other than that. Only from the standpoint of creation do we say that from Brahmaji alone everything has come. Brahmaji is non-separate from Ishvara and from Ishvara everything comes. When does this happen? At the break of day. In other words, when Brahmaji wakes up, the creation arises, comes into manifestation. Ratri agame praliyante tatra eva avyakta sanyake. Similarly, Ratri Agame, when Brahmaji's night comes after 4,320,000,000 years, all things that are manifest dissolve, praliyante, where they go back to the cause, the condition called unmanifest avyakta sanyake, which is Brahmaji's sleep. Exactly like our own world resolves into us in sleep night after night and comes back again day after day. When Brahmaji's day comes, there is creation, and when his night begins, there is dissolution. This goes on 36,000 times. I repeat, this goes on 36,000 times. Then Brahmaji's life is over and Brahmaloka is also destroyed. Only Parmeshwara remains. That Parmeshwara, Krishna says, is me. If you reach me, you don't get into this cycle. I am the only survivor, the only thing that is eternal, Nitya, that is Sat Chit Ananda. Brahman is Satya, the world is Mithya. From this we understand Brahman is Satya, the world is Mithya. Mithya is anything that is subject to the three periods of time. It is not that it did not exist in the past and is existent now. I repeat as there was a breaking of voice. Brahman is Satya, the world is Mithya. From this we understand Brahman is Satya, the world is Mithya. Mithya is anything that is subject to the three periods of time. It is not that it did not exist in the past and is existent now. It is not that it existed in the past and is not existent now. Again, it is not that it is not existent now, but will be existent in the future. All the lokas, their residents and lords can be negated in all three periods of time. I repeat, all the lokas, their residents and lords can be negated in all three periods of time. They are all other than Brahman, meaning Brahman is independent of all of them, while they are not independent of Brahman. Anything that Brahman is independent of is called Loka. Within the Lokas are many jivas, including the devatas who are in charge. But being subject to time, they are subject to death. Then what is Satya? What is not subject to the three periods of time? In the past, it was. In the present, it is. In the future, it will be. That can only be one thing. Chaitanya Atma. Being the very basis of time, Satya Atma is Nitya. What is eternal? What exists is only one, that is Brahman, which is Atma. And the creation, which is by nature an observable object, is Mithya. Anything seen is Mithya, it is perishable. The seer, however, can objectify even time and is therefore the basis of time, eternal. That is Atma, Brahman, the only one not subject to time. That Krishna says is himself and that alone is Nitya. This is what Bhagavan means when he says here, reaching me, they do not gain another birth. Mam upetya punarjanma na apnuvanti. That is in the 8th chapter, 15th verse. I will just read the 15th verse. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam shashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gataha. So once we recognize Paramatma as Atma, there is no birth-death cycle. So beautiful. Okay, why does Bhagavan say reaching me rather than knowing the Atma? Why does Bhagavan say reaching me rather than knowing the Atma? Whenever Krishna uses the first person singular with reference to himself, he means Paramatma and not the historical Krishna. It can be argued that if this is so, why should he say, reaching me, you are freed from birth? If it is Atma that one must know, then why should Krishna not say, knowing oneself, Atmanam Gnatva? He did not say so, because that is not enough. One has to know that Ishvara is Atma. By the statement, knowing me, Krishna equates Ishvara and the Jiva. That equation is the whole teaching, pointing out that Pratyagatma is consciousness alone is not the teaching Updesha. That Pratyagatma and Parmeshwara are identical is the teaching. This is why Bhagavan so frequently says, reaching me, you are free, meaning recognizing me as Atma, you are free. Only with this kind of equation does it become a teaching equivalent to Tat Tvam Asi. Otherwise, it will be experiential. Dismissal of thoughts is not what is being taught here. It is the knowledge that I am everything that is being taught. To point out this identity, Bhagavan says, Mam upetya punarjanma na apnuvanti. This jiva reaching me does not gain another birth. Knowing he is Brahman, he knows that he is eternal. And knowing Atma is knowing Brahman, because there is no such thing as Brahman other than Atma. Those who recognize Atma as Nitya Brahma do not return to another birth. Those who go to Brahmaloka, etc., however, do come back to assume another birth. And to go to Brahmaloka, the effort required is extraordinary. It involves elaborate karma backed with complex upasanas. Even if you achieve it, you have to come back again unless you have been taught Tat Tvam Asi by Brahmaji. For that, you require some extra punya. Everyone who goes to Brahmaloka does not get a chance to be taught. Gaining Brahman, on the other hand, is easy because it is your nature. Since I am so easily available, why do you turn away from me and make effort to reach lokas? That is the intention here. The Shrishti and Laya of the creation. In this verse, Bhagavan says that every day when Brahmaji goes to sleep, the whole cosmos, all the physical and subtle bodies resolve. Then the whole creation arises when Brahmaji wakes up. If on the other hand, one considers that the whole creation is totally dissolved, and an absolutely new creation comes up, there are three possible problems. These are raised by Shankara. They are Krita Vipranasa. I hope I'm correct in my pronunciation. Krita Vipranasa.
It is Krita Vipranasha. Yeah.
Krita Vipranasha.
And Akrita Abhyagama and Nishpalatva of the Shastra. Yeah.
Astu. The total destruction of something created. Akrita Abhyagama. The coming into being of something that is not created. And Nishpalatva of the Shastra. The purposelessness of the Shastra. Krita Vipranasha. Vipranasha.
Yeah, Krita Vipranasha. Yeah.
Krita Vipranasha. Krita Vipranasha. The total destruction of something created. If all the jivas in various lokas resolve into Brahmaji, they will all be gone. Since they were ignorant in endless births, they accumulated endless karma. These karmas will also be gone now and have no possibility of fructifying. The karma done by these jivas without being completely fulfilled are destroyed because they also dissolve when Brahmaji goes to sleep. So we have the complete destruction of something that is already created. This would be a logical effect in Ishvara's creation. If you, I hope that it is clear. Brahmaraji, is it like, I think I read once again. Krita Vipranasha. Vipranasha. Krita Vipranasha. The total destruction of something created. If all the jivas in various lokas resolve into Brahmaji, they will all be gone. Since they were ignorant in endless births, they accumulated endless karma. These karmas will also be gone now and have no possibility of fructifying. The karma done by these jivas without being completely fulfilled are destroyed because they also dissolve when Brahmaji goes to sleep. So we have the complete destruction of something that is already created. This would be a logical defect in Ishvara's creation. Akrita Abhyagama. Akrita Abhyagama. The coming into being of something that is not created, then every time Brahmaji awakes, new jivas are created. But there are now no karmas for these new jivas. That means Bhagavan creates varieties of new jivas for his own amusement or for no purpose at all. There is no rhyme or reason to the creation. This is a second logical defect, the coming into being of something that is not created. The karma in the account of the jivas all get destroyed if the jivas are destroyed. And if new jivas are created, then they have come into being without any past karma, etc. So what is created is destroyed and what is not created is brought into being. The next verse will dismiss both these defects. Nishphalatva of the Shastra, the purposelessness of the Shastra. A third difficulty is this. There is a Vidhi Nishedha Shastra, which enjoins certain actions and prohibits others. If you do the prohibited actions, you will incur papa. If you do the prescribed actions, you will gain punya. Then there is the Bandha Moksha Shastra, which says that if you keep performing actions like this, you will be in bondage. If you know the truth, you will be released. If the jivas totally disappear in pralaya, they will not enjoy the results of their many actions, good and bad. Without that and without any knowledge, they will get liberated. So both Vidhi Nishedha Shastra and Moksha Shastra will have no meaning. All you have to do to get liberated is to wait for the kalpa to end. It is something like amnesty. If you wait long enough, it will come. You just keep living in samsara and you will get liberated anyway because everything is going to end one day. You need only to wait for Brahmaji's night and it will all be over. The next verse removes this difficulty also. If you want me to read anything, once again, do let me know. But it is so amazing. Brahma's sleep and the dissolution.
So basically,
Helplessness.
these are three defects that Shankaracharya has brought out by the the wrong interpretation of this verse. In case someone wrongly interprets it as everything gets dissolved, and therefore also the karma gets dissolved. That is that krita vipranasha, and then akrita abhyagama. And then again with Brahmaji's day, another day is created and new beings are born. So out of nothing, out of no karma, beings are born. So akrita abhyagama. So that is also logically defective. And then what is that? That is
Nishphalatva of the Shastra.
nishphalatva of the Shastra. So all these things that the Shastra is telling us, nishidha karma, pratisiddha karma, nitya karma, all that has no meaning then. So now the next verse is going to bring out the actual essence of that. Of what? Yeah, go ahead, Bela.
Helplessness of the jiva in the cycle of creation and dissolution. In the next verse, Bhagavan shows that the jiva is helplessly caught in this cycle of creation and dissolution. Karma has its source in a fivefold affliction: avidya, ignorance; asmita, ego; raga, likes; dvesha, dislikes; and abhinivesha, attachment or even mistaking something which is non-eternal as eternal. Why does a person perform karma? Only due to a fondness or preoccupation with something, abhinivesha. He has a confusion that by going for heaven, for example, he will get moksha, or simply by getting a certain thing, he will achieve a given end and thereby better his lot. Similarly, raga dvesha is a source of karma. And to do any action, there must be a subject, the agent, asmita. All these are possible due to avidya, ignorance. Together, these five are the basis for all karma. Since they all exist in the mind of the jiva, karma has its abode in the jiva. Because of the force of this karma, necessarily without his willingness, the jiva is forced to perform action. I repeat, it is very, very important paragraph. Helplessness of the jiva in the cycle of creation and dissolution. In the next verse, Bhagavan shows that the jiva is helplessly caught in this cycle of creation and dissolution. Karma has its source in a fivefold affliction: avidya, ignorance; asmita, ego; raga, likes; dvesha, dislikes; and abhinivesha, attachment or even mistaking something which is non-eternal as eternal. Why does a person perform karma? Only due to a fondness or preoccupation with something, abhinivesha. He has a confusion that by going to heaven, for example, he will get moksha, or simply by getting a certain thing, he will achieve a given end and thereby better his lot. Similarly, raga, dvesha is a source of karma. And to do any action, there must be a subject, the agent, asmita. All these are possible due to avidya, ignorance. Together, these five are the basis for all karma. Since they all exist in the mind of the jiva, karma has its abode in the jiva. Because of the force of this karma, necessarily without his willingness, the jiva is forced to perform action. So the Shuddha Antahkaran, how much important it is. Brahmanaji, abhinivesha here is attachment or even mistaking something which is non-eternal as eternal. So it may be in any form, right? It may be in form of relationship as mother, son, or as...
Yeah.
So that will be like
Also,
a raga only, right? That will be
attachment.
another
Yeah.
form of raga.
Exactly. So everything which is anatma, he thinks as permanent, as atma. So to say. So
Mm.
everything that is anatma, including heaven. So if he does all these rituals and all that to go to heaven, so he can better his lot, or he can
Mm.
get a good birth in heaven, all that is again abhinivesha. Which is
Oh.
why Atma Bodh says, no
Mm.
karma can ever liberate you.
Except
It will
knowledge,
only
yeah.
take you more and more into the samsara. It is
Mm.
only jnanat eva tu kaivalya.
True.
Right? So all that is included in abhinivesha. From the day-to-day things up until reaching heaven, even Brahma Loka for that matter. If a person wants to, like Vishwamitra wanted to only gain Brahma Loka, no? So he did a lot of
Mm.
penance. How many times he came down? He had to, he could not reach the ultimate end. So even Brahmaloka, for that matter, would become Abhinivesha.
Mm.
So what we have to hold on to is Kitapa. That's all.
Correct. So these are pancha kleshas, right? In our day, like, or...
Yeah, correct. Very right. This is actually ditto from Patanjali Yoga Sutras talks about these five
Mm.
kleshas, the causes of misery.
Afflictions, yeah.
Hmm. It begins with avidya. The avidya is the root cause of all the misery.
Mm.
Not knowing the truth, you get caught up in this raga, dvesha, asmita, abhinivesha. So nipping that in the removing that ignorance with knowledge is what is liberating.
So beautiful.
So, Jai Gurudev, when we say hold on to Kitaya, so it is that Saguna Roop or Nirguna Roop?
Come again, your voice is not clear, Madhuriji.
When we say hold on to Kitaya, so it is our Saguna Roop of Krishna or
Nirguna Roop, Nirguna Roop. Because he
Nirguna
says,
Roop?
no,
Okay.
not don't consider me. When I say me, it is not the first person. It is not the Krishna with the flute and the peacock feather and all that. It's not that Krishna. Think of me as Sachidananda, the creator, sustainer, destroyer of the whole thing. And there's no difference between Ishvara and Krishna, Ishvara or Bhagwan. That is what the Nirguna Roop is what he means.
Yes. Okay.
All these upasanas ultimately are there to only cleanse us. No? So ultimately, no matter what all upasanas you do, the maximum gain you can get is Brahmaloka.
Correct.
So we go beyond that. It's not Brahmaloka that we want. We want Brahman. We have to recognize Brahman, that we are nothing but him.
Correct. Correct. And the only way is through wisdom and the meditation. Samadhi.
Correct.
Is it?
Correct. Karma Yoga, all of us practice Karma Yoga. To get rid of all these, see these fivefold miseries, to get rid of Ragadveshas, we do Karma Yoga. And in order to get out of Abhinivesha, Asmita, we do a lot of, even Seva for that matter. Asmita is gone, no? There is no me there. You're doing things for others. And through practice of meditation and through knowledge, through the words of the Shastra, the Pramana, we reach there.
Correct. Thank you.
वायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे वश पार्थ प्रभवत्यहरागमे स एव अयं, that is indeed this, bhutagramah, group of beings, avashah, necessarily, bhutva bhutva, having repeatedly come into being, ratri agame, when the night comes, praliyate, dissolves, partha, O son of Pritha, aharagame, me, when the day comes, prabhavati, it arises. Sa eva ayam bhutagramah avashah bhutva bhutva ratri agame praliyate partha aharagame me prabhavati. That is indeed this group of beings which, having repeatedly come into being, necessarily dissolves when the night of Brahmaji comes, O son of Pritha. When the day comes, it necessarily arises. I repeat, that is indeed this group of beings which, having repeatedly come into being, necessarily dissolves when the night of Brahmaji comes, O son of Pritha. When the day comes, it necessarily arises. Without any personal volition, by the law of karma, a person comes into being again and again. Every time the day breaks for Brahmaji, all the beings emerge. Then again having existed, they resolve. Bhutagramah sa eva ayam bhutva bhutva praliyate. Bhutagrama means the whole group of beings, mobile and immobile, all forms of life. Saha and ayam used together indicate that which was before is the one now mentioned. The same group of beings that went into pralaya in the previous kalpa is the group spoken of here. That means pralaya is not a real dissolution, but an unmanifest condition. Ayam tells us that the same group of jivas and not any other comes back again. The group of beings that existed in the previous cycle, the previous day of Brahmaji, returns in the next cycle. The repetition of the word bhutva as bhutva bhutva is meant to show the cyclic nature of the kalpas, and also that the same beings come, go into pralaya, and again come back. I read once again, there was breaking of voice. Bhuta gramah sa eva ayam bhutva bhutva praliyate. Bhuta grama means the whole group of beings, mobile and immobile, all forms of life. Saha and ayam used together indicate that which was before is the one now mentioned. The same group of beings that went into pralaya in the previous kalpa is the group spoken of here. That means pralaya is not a real dissolution, but an unmanifest condition. Ayam tells us that the same group of jivas and not any other comes back again. The group of beings that existed in the previous cycle, the previous day of Brahmaji, returns in the next cycle. The repetition of the word bhutva as bhutva bhutva is meant to show the cyclic nature of the kalpas, and also that the same beings come, go into pralaya, then again come back. So beautiful. Since the same ones who become unmanifest return to fulfill their karma, there is no destruction of all the created karma, and new jivas are not created. The old ones are coming back. Both logical defects are dismissed by this verse. The exception to this are those jivas who got liberated. They do not exist at all as jivas. All that is there is Param Brahma. Only those who go into pralaya come back. When do they resolve? Ratri agame avasaha avashaha praliyate. When the night of Brahmaji comes, they necessarily resolved. Avashaha necessarily means they have no say over the matter at all. They are forcefully pushed into dissolution. Prabhavati aharagame. Then the entire group of beings appear again when the day breaks for Brahmaji. Since the jivas are infinite in number, their karmas are countless and they can therefore appear in any form. Sometimes you find more animals on this earth and fewer human beings, or fewer animals and more human beings. That is the nature of the process. But they are all there somewhere in creation. In time, they all come into being. The Big Bang or the biological theories of evolution are in keeping with this because they are processes. We do not accept an immediate simultaneous creation of everything, but we consider it to be a process. First, the infrastructure comes into being, then everything else comes about as part of a process within that. So it is here, again and again, they come back. Bhagwan says this explicitly to help you develop vairagya towards samsara. You are not going to solve the problem of samsara by being in it, repeatedly coming back to assume a birth is samsara. Then in a given life, there are the ups and downs of sukha and dukkha. This is samsara. It repeats itself. Do not have the illusion that you can just go on living and one day when the kalpa ends, you will gain moksha. There is no such amnesty. When the kalpa ends, it is like sleep. As soon as Brahmaji awakes the following morning, you come back. When this is the case, Moksha Shastra is necessary. Oh my God, it is so wonderful. So युगों कल्पों से हम लोग ये ignorance में ही जीते आए हैं. Vidhi Nishedh Shastra also becomes meaningful. Your punya papas have to be accounted for in terms of experiences. The papas have to be gone through, the punyas have to be enjoyed. You can neutralize some of your karmas, but you cannot totally eliminate all of them because there is an inviolable cause-effect relationship between an action and its result. That is why karma phala is called Rita Satya. It is true.
Can you read that once again, Bela?
Yeah, Vidhi Nisheda.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Vidhi Nisheda Shastra also becomes meaningful. Your punya papas have to be accounted for in terms of experiences. The papas have to be gone through, the punyas have to be enjoyed. You can neutralize some of your karmas, but you cannot totally eliminate all of them because there is an inviolable cause-effect relationship between an action and its result. That is why karma phala is called Rita, Satya. It is true. It can wait even for one kalpa, but if not now, later in one form or another, here or elsewhere, the jiva will reap his results. Once Brahmaji has awoken, the subtle bodies are all going to experience their own punya papas in some form. That means both the Vidhi Shastra and the Nisheda Shastra become meaningful. This is within samsara. Then Moksha Shastra also becomes meaningful. Through knowledge, there is freedom. Jnanat Moksha. I think the Vidhi Shastra, Swamiji had already explained, I think 14th or 13th shloka, that the process is not completed unless there is the recognition. So even Jignashu, Mumukshu, Yogi, they all, because they have not completed that Vidhi, so beautiful. Jnanat eva moksha. This verse shows us that the jivas do not disappear in pralaya. They continue to exist even there and then they return. By saying this, Bhagavan emphasizes what he pointed out before, that is, there is no way of getting rid of samsara except by reaching him. That is in the chapter 8, verse 13. I'll just read the verse. Omite Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yah Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim. So only recognizing that fact, there is no coming back. That reaching is identifying oneself to be Parameshwara, which is the one thing that is eternal, Nitya. Meaning of Omkara. Earlier in verses 13 and 14 of this chapter, Omkara Upasana as a means for gaining Brahman was pointed out. Om can be a name for Brahman, in which case it is to be understood. Knowing that one is free, or it can be meditated upon as a symbol of Parameshwara. By this, one goes to Brahmaloka and can gain the knowledge of Brahman. Now, if Omkara is the name, the Vachaka, what is the name, the Vachya? What is it that is revealed by Omkara essentially? That is shown in the next 3 verses. Because there seems to be a repetition, Shankara introduces these verses saying that they are taught with a desire to unfold the meaning of Aksharam Brahma, which was referred to as Om, Om iti Aksharam Brahma. I think that was the verse I read, Shamyata. The first was 13 and 15 and 16 verse, where one says that by recognizing me, you reach me. So 15th and 16th is Mamupetya Punarjanma Dukhalayam Shashwatam Napnuvanti Atmanaha Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha Abrahma Bhuvana Lokaha Punaravartinorjuna Mamupetya Tu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. And then that was the previous one, that you have to come back if you have not recognized, if you have not realized your real Swarupa, which is nothing but Satchit Ananda. And Omiteka Aksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran Ya Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gati. So, Omkara, meaning of Omkara. Earlier in verses 13 and 14 of this chapter, Omkara Upasana as a means for gaining Brahman was pointed out. Om can be a name from Brahman, name for Brahman, Shamyata, in which case it is to be understood, knowing that one is free, or it can be meditated upon as a symbol of Parmeshwara. By this, one goes to Brahmaloka and can gain the knowledge of Brahman. Now, if Omkara is the name, the Vachaka, what is the name, the Vachya? What is it that is revealed by Omkara essentially? That is shown in the next 3 verses. Because there seems to be repetition, Shankara introduces these verses saying that they are taught with a desire to unfold the meaning of Aksharam Brahma, which was referred to as Om. Om iti Aksharam Brahma. What is the real nature or meaning of Omkara, which stands for Aksharam Brahma? What is the nature of that Brahman for which Omkara is the name, Vachaka? By knowing this, one can gain Brahman, in other words, moksha. That is the purpose of the next 3 verses. Should I stop here, Brahmaraji?
Yeah, I think we'll stop here and we'll reflect on this. You can
Yeah,
just,
I will just
chant the verses that we have covered today.
Yeah. So we started from verse 18. Avyaktadyaktaye sarva prabhavantya haragame ratragame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sanyake. At the beginning of the day, all beings that are manifest arise from the unmanifest. At the beginning of the night, they resolve in that which is called unmanifest. भूतग्रामस एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे वश पार्थ प्रभवत्यहरागमे. That is indeed this group of beings which having repeatedly come into being necessarily dissolves when the night of Brahmaji comes, O son of Pritha. When the day comes, it necessarily arises. परस्तस्मात्तु भावोऽन्यो व्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यः स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति. I think this we will see tomorrow. So we can please close your eyes and reflect, contemplate, and then kindly share or reflect upon the Manana. हरिओम, जय गुरुदेव. सो युगो युगो से जो सोई हुई चिति शक्ति है उसी को जगाना है. दैट इज द ओनली, आई मीन द रियलाइजेशन ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट वी हैव बीन living in this ignorance from not only this birth but from the kalpas, right, Brahmaraji, if I'm not mistaken? So
Very right. Very right.
So I think this should be the ultimatum for all of us, that
this is the last
how much more.
Yeah, exactly. So this one should actually bring up that mumukshutva, that true mumukshutva, not lukewarm mumukshutva. Mumukshutva actually means moksho me bhuyat iti tivra ichha. And Tattva Bodh, where we learned, it is like how Nana described a person who does not know swimming is put into water and his nose is underwater. How he struggles to get himself free. That intensity is, with that intensity, if you're seeking liberation, moksho me bhuyat iti tivra ichha. Even Patanjali Yoga Sutras talk of 3 different categories. Even here we learned, I think in fourth or fifth chapter, where you have degrees of intensity of your effort to gain this. On one side, there is no effort required at all because it is your own nature. But on the other side, you have to put in some effort in order to cleanse yourself. So that effort is because each of us has different orientations, different vasanas we come with. So different raga dveshas, over the years, lifetimes, we have accumulated all that like rust and dirt that is there. That needs to be washed off. So the effort required is that. Whereas all of us are the same. We are the diamond, uncut diamonds, so to say. We have that shine of Brahman within us. It's just that we need that removal of that vikshepa and avarana, that is avidya. For me, these two verses, these last three verses, was so in sync with what happens to us every day. During the night, we go to bed and all of it gets into unmanifest state. All our, whatever must have happened during the day. Forget, I'm not talking of the dream state. When you go into deep sleep state, nothing is there. Your relationships, your achievements, your ups and downs, whatever you may have had during the day, all of that just dissolves into nothingness. And then once again in the daybreak, when you wake up, everything manifests as is there is condition. Your bed is where it is. It is not in Singapore. It is there wherever you are. Your body parts are there wherever they are, in their place. They're not displaced. So similarly, when during the Kalpa of Brahmaji, beings manifest in the same way that they had, based on whatever karma they have. Very so beautifully, Shankaracharya has put forth and denounced those three things. Krita Vipranasha, Akrita Bhyagama, and Shastra. What is that, the term that they used for? I think Nishpalita, I think. Nishpalita of the Shastra. That is why Gurudev says in the morning when you wake up, don't just get off and start your activity. Sit and meditate for some time. Be in that space. And all these cusps, like sandhyas, between night and day, between day and noon, and between evening and night, all these cusp times are very, very, should I say, appropriate times for us to meditate and reflect upon this, contemplate upon these eternal truths. Yeah, anybody else wants to share? Please go ahead.
Jai Gurudev. This is like what you are describing, the sleep, dream and waking, all these states. This is how in Mandukya Upanishad, the Atman Brahman is described. It is described in fourfold manner. How with the help of this state, the Atma or the Brahman is described very beautifully in Mandukya Upanishad. I don't know who else has read that. I was reading because I took a printout of that and I was just going through it. So it is very, it's so revealing and you get so much of the satiety feeling you have after reading. It's very beautiful if you all can read that, which I posted. It all narrates how it is described, the time and space, then all about the Asti Bhati Priya Nama Rupa. it's and how we are caught up in this this network of tensions, which is only in Jivatva that is there. We are all made up of these group of tensions, that granthi we have. And that is why no jiva can be happy. He's always in that state of anxiety or that eagerness to release himself from the tensions. It's very beautiful if you can go through that. It is so going in with this chapter. Mandukya Upanishad is like, it would be more easy to understand if you side by side read the Mandukya Upanishad. The understanding would be very much more like, yeah, Jai Gurudev.
Thank you. Thank you for inspiring us, Dr. Savita.
Jai Gurudev. I still feel so, though the moment we get up and when we are going to sleep, these two important phases or the timings, and we have developed also some habit of doing some chanting or meditating before going to bed and before getting up from the bed. But still the grip of the Maya is so strong that if little bit going into the witness consciousness and observing everything, still I feel so that through and through, even the dreams also or throughout the day also, the grip is so strong that almost through and through we are living the life and the thinking and intellect and all our upadhis we are using more or less continuously reveling in the Maya only. So I don't know how to really loosen up that grip. Even in the name of the, while doing the seva also, like doing all the instructions which Gurudev gives, we are all of us, we are doing that. But still the Maya ka wo jo parda, that curtain is there, no? Very rarely I feel so that clarity is there and then it vanishes, gone. Jai Gurudev. Om Namah Shivaya.
Our our, should I say, duty is to just follow the words of the Shastra. It's like the soldier, not that you should not inquire and question, but what comes to my mind again here is Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparaha samyatendriyaha. So all that we are doing, yes, we're doing it. It might come, that doubt might crop up, oh, what is this? We're again caught up in Maya. But there is that knowledge, there is that clarity dawning little by little. It's like when you're opening a window, you're just opening little bit, little more. So with this, when you're holding on to knowledge, you're holding on to you're committed to your practice of meditation, that window will certainly open up little by little, surely. Finally, one day it will open up wide, where that's it. You revel in that nature, in the nature of Atma. So I think we just have to continue with that dhriti, that commitment and that determination, and we'll all be there. We are all actually one. It's so funny. We all have different names, Nama Rupa, like how Dr. Savita ji beautifully said. Of the 5, we leave the Asti, Bhati, Preeti, and we hold on to the Nama and Rupa. And that is why we get caught up so much. So slowly that hold of Nama Rupa also will slowly soften out. Again, coming back to Karma Yoga. These likes and dislikes, I mean, these are the real, should I call them Rakshasas, that demons that you have to really take care of.
because they are so entwined in our thinking, the way of our thinking. What action you will take given a situation? Are we doing it with the filter of raga dvesha, or are we doing it as spontaneously what is required of us to do at that time? So this thing, if we can tackle raga dveshas, then battle is won, so to say.
I think this tackling of the raga and dvesha uh, is also related to how we are made up of the 5 tattvas and the 3 gunas. So which guna is predominantly present in us? So how through our spiritual practices we can lessen the raju and tamo guna and come more towards sattva. And then our meditation and our knowledge will take us there. Like I think over the past whole year, it has been like, okay, even if you're preoccupied with some other art of living activity or something like that, at some point of time or the other, we are going back to this. Like in the last few days, like what has been churning in my mind is how am I not yet able to identify myself with the Atma? Yeah. So it's like, okay, the knowledge is there, everything is there, and yet, just not getting there, like that I am the Atma, whatever. Then, going through more knowledge, listening to some other saints also, and then trying to get your answers. Like our whole daily activities is now based on doing whatever work you have to do, like the art of living activities, and then coming back to this in the spare time, the churning, that something is going on in the mind. Like, why am I not yet identifying with Atma? Like all this chapter 6, 7, 8 that we are going through, 8 is more on Atma only. But then why am I not yet able to realize that all is going on continuously? Like that churning is there. In whenever like we are not into any other solid activity where the mind is trained on that activity, like International Day of Yoga is coming up, the new protocol, Padma Sadhana being accepted, orientation is there for that. So all that activity is there, and then other time is all spent on this. So I think we are doing a lovely, at least myself, I'm like getting tuned to it. Where are the mistakes? Even that orientation that we talked about from birth, like being educated in a convent school, that the soul going to heaven and all that. That is such a wrong concept. Heaven is somewhere up above. And Paramatma is like Brahma is everything is Brahma like. So the whole misconception which is there also vis-a-vis heaven, soul, Atma, mistaking the Atma to be the soul is the older orientation which we got in our convent school. Bible doesn't talk about rebirth. Once you reach heaven, you are there with God. God is present in heaven. But it's not like that. Paramatma is present everywhere. We go take rebirth according to our karmas. All that, so much is going on in the mind now, trying to getting more clarity. Jai Gurudev.
So beautiful. Very true. Yeah. So shall we go to chapter 6? We couldn't do it yesterday. So we'll just run back to it. How can I recognize Atma when it is never an object? Well, before that, I think I'll just do this. The verse we are doing is the verse 29, one of the most important verses. Sarva bhutasthamaatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. One whose mind is resolved by this contemplation, who has the vision of sameness everywhere, sees the self abiding in all beings and all beings in the self. I think we read all this, so I'm just going to go down to the sameness that is we did the sameness that is everything that is Nirvishesha and Vishesha, the gold and the different ornaments created out of it. So Satya, gold is Satya, that runs in and through all the ornaments. The ornaments only have their name and form, Nama Rupa. So similarly, all Nama Rupas have their basis in Satya. Likewise, that Atma, Brahman I am. So the one who knows the Nirvishesha, that is free from attributes, the Satya in everything, Sarvatra, that which lends its existence to all names and forms, is called Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. Wherever the person looks, he or she sees Brahman. So for us, the correlation here is the I belong to you. When we say I belong to you, you are allowing yourself to have this Sarvatra Samadarshana Bhava. That feeling of oneness with everyone. So contemplation is the appreciation of what is being said here. Yeah, I'll just read this one. So there is no real looking implied here. Sarvatra sama darshana. Darshana is looking, right? So there is no real looking implied here. What is meant is that for this person, there is no ignorance about the self. The vision of the person is that the self is in all beings and all beings are in the self. This vision, the vision of Vedanta, described in its entirety in this verse and the next two verses, is what is referred to as the knowledge. So we keep saying Jnana Tevatu Kaivalyam, Jnana Tevatu. So what is this Jnana? This is the vision. So the vision of the person is that the self is in all beings and all beings are in the self. In fact, these three verses lend themselves to contemplation because contemplation is primarily the appreciation of what is being said here. The meaning of the word I is not exactly as we understand it to be. It is not this physical body, mind, sense complex. When you say, this is my body, my mind, my senses, you become someone who abides in the body, mind, sense complex. For this, you require no special knowledge. In fact, it is very common for people to take themselves in this way. And not only do you take yourself to be someone who abides in the body, mind, sense complex, you also take the body, mind, and senses to be yours, which is why you say, this is my body, my mind, my senses. Similarly, when you say, I am fat, the body itself becomes the I. When you say, I am restless, the mind becomes the I. And when you say, I am tired, the prana becomes the I. This makes it possible for us to have two situations here. Either the physical body itself is Atma or Atma abides in the body. Both are being negated here. This Atma that you talk about is the Atma that abides in all beings. Sarva bhutastha, not just in one bhuta, in one body. So we either say, I reside in the body, or this body is mine, the mind is mine, the senses are mine. So my body, my senses. And then when you say, I am fat, the body itself becomes the I. So here, both are being negated. Physical body itself is Atma, or Atma abides in the body. It's not just a physical single body. It is Atma abides in all beings. How can I recognize Atma when it is never an object? And how do you appreciate the Sarva Bhutastha Atma? Since Atma never becomes an object, you cannot see it like you can see the string that runs through different beads, thereby holding them together. Because you can see both the beads and the string, you can say that the string is Sarva Bhutastha, the beads being all the bhutas. The string is not just in one bead. It runs through all the beads. Even if the beads are of different shapes, colors, and value, all of them are run through by one string. Here, both the beads and the string are objects. Both of them are anatma. Although this illustration is used to explain Sarva Bhutastha Atma, like any illustration, it is subject to defect. The defect here is that both the beads and the string are anatma. As an object perceived by you, the string is anatma, and so are the beads. Even if the string is not seen by you, because the beads are strung so closely together, you can infer that the string is there. Thus, the string is an object inferred by you. Whether an object is perceived or inferred, either way, it is an object known by you and is therefore anatma. But here, how does the one who recognizes the Atma in all beings recognize it? I recognize the various beings, but if I recognize in all of them one Atma, Atma becomes an object of recognition. Atma can never be recognized as an object. How then is the statement Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam Ikshate to be understood? Atma is only one, and that is I. There is no other Atma because everything else is anatma. If we define Atma as one thing referred to as the first person I, then everything that is evident to this Atma becomes anatma. Therefore, is there not some difficulty here? How am I to recognize Atma in all these anatmas? This problem arises because this Atma that I recognize as myself is not only in my physical body. It is not in any one physical body alone. When you associate it with one body, it becomes ahankara, the I notion. It becomes the jiva, the individual. Then you go one step further and recognize the jiva as pure chaitanya, pure consciousness alone. Then everything else in the world, all the beings, all the minds, etc., have their being in that consciousness, which has no particular location. Consciousness, Atma, is not located anywhere. If consciousness had a location, then it would be located only in living beings. In other words, consciousness would be here in one living being and at another place in another living being. Then how would we recognize the one that is present in all these beings? Between two beads, we can see or infer there is string. This is how we know that the string obtains in space too. But if consciousness had a particular location, how would we recognize it? There is no way to recognize consciousness, Atma, except by understanding that it has no location. It is not located anywhere. Location itself is always in terms of spatial inquiry. The very concept of location is based upon the various forms that you see abiding in a space context. You see one object existing in one place, place P, another object existing in place P1, and between them there is space. Therefore, you say this object is located here and that object is located there. The location for two objects not being the same, you ask where particular objects are located or from where a certain person comes, etc. A physical body definitely has a location. It has to be located. Even concepts have their own location. And if you analyze the location of all these, you will find that they exist within the framework of time and space alone. All concepts, time, space concepts, and objects within time, space concepts exist where that in which they are located is Atma, consciousness, called Sarva Bhutastha Atma, the self or the truth of all beings. So all concepts, time, space, concepts and objects within time, space, concepts exist where? That in which they are located is Atma, consciousness, called Sarva Bhutastha Atma, the self or the truth of all beings. So we'll do this time and space have their existence in Atma tomorrow. We will stop here today. Before we leave, I just wanted to follow on what Nana had advised. Following this tragic tragedy in Orissa, he said on your Manana group, all of you just pray for all those people affected, the victims and their families. So maybe we'll just close our eyes once and say a silent prayer for all of them. Let's just do that before we close.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.